Welcome back, everyone, to the second annual, what I am now calling the Forge Awards, where I crown 5 best games of the year and 1 game of the year. I like to lay out a list of honorable mentions, which are these games that I found to be really cool. They didn't necessarily have to compete for Game of the Year. They didn't have to compete to be in the top 5 list. They were just really cool games that need to be spotlighted, as is my top 5. Usually these things consist of a lot of games that most people haven't heard of. Maybe they will play after seeing this video, but you never know. So I'd like to kind of point out and show off a lot of games that people don't know much about. And usually some of the best games I play in the year are things that nobody would even have close to their top 5. So without further ado, let's really hop into the meat of this Game of the Year burger. And let's start with the honorable mentions right off the top. I got 10 games that I want to spotlight and discuss briefly to let you guys know that there's a lot of cool games that came out this year. You should already know that it was a jam-packed year. So let's start it off with Shotgun Cop Man, a precision platformer from the same people that brought you My Friend Pedro, and they even dropped a free DLC including Pedro himself. Use a shotgun to propel yourself around. You solve puzzles in real time by platforming, attacking enemies, and getting all sort of different abilities and weapons and progressing these levels and fighting bosses. It's just fun and enjoyable. It's a very simple, yet one of those games where you can kind of progress through it relatively easily, but to like perfect it, it really takes time and takes a lot of effort. And it's one of those things that's even better the more you replay it. Gravelord is an amazing Quake-like homage that also features a Jekyll and Hyde-like main character, a card system, but it's not a roguelike, and a very, very cool comic book-like art style that not many people have out there. A really fun game where you get to collect comic books that add to the story and narrative of this character. You get to progress it and blow baddies away and destroy zombies and all kinds of different enemies. It's just a fast-paced, classic boom shoot good time. Very Quake-like if you're a fan of that stuff. Captain Wayne is an amazing, swashbuckling good time made in the GZ Doom engine, and it feels so good, and it reminds you of those classic old school 90s games of Duke Nukem and all these different things, and it's just so frantic and fast and crazy, and you're jumping around. It's one of those games that has like a kick button that propels you through the area, and just you use that to do a lot of things. A lot of the platforming requires you to jump and kick dash yourself all over the place. Oh, it's so much fun. You got a shotgun arm that turns into a machine gun arm. You got bombs where you're using your metal finger while flipping people off that lights the bomb and you throw it. It's just a blast. It's so much fun. You're running around eating shrimp and drinking all kinds of rum just to heal yourself and keep on blasting. It is a good time. Neon Inferno, a game that I recently reviewed, is one of my favorite games this year. It is such a blast from the past, good time of a run and gun shooter, gallery shooter style game with a little bit of that light gun stuff and a little bit of that Contra-like run and gun action. It's so much fun with the just bombastic and occasionally almost metal-like music, the industrial beats, the synthwave vibes, the cyberpunk setting, and the rain-drenched streets, flying cars. I mean, it's so much fun. It just looks cool. The mob themes, the way that color is used to see what is good and what is bad, to see what is interactable or isn't. The way you kind of play this chess with the combat and the way everything flows and using your ability to attack in the foreground and the background as well as deflect bullets back at people is really cool. Wizardom is a first-person, old-school inspired, dungeon-crawling, FPS-ish kind of game that does have some shooting, some spellcasting. It's so cool. It kind of reminds you of Hexen or Heretic or even Ultima or Wolfenstein in a lot of the way that perspectives are done. There's no jumping. It's a lot of moving around. There's a lot of puzzles and enemies and secrets and lots of exploration. It's such a cool game, and it's probably one of the most overlooked games, I think, released in 2025. And it's one of those games where I don't think enough people were talking about it. I don't know if it's just the kind of game that it is or what it is, but it's such a really cool and unique game that doesn't go for this bombastic musical style either. It's very orchestral and epic, and it's very old school. It's just very medieval fantasy. It feels good to play the game. Like, it's just it's chill and it's cool. I like that. Little Nightmares 3 was a game that actually was among my top 5 list this year, and actually got knocked down by another game just because mainly I didn't finish Little Nightmares 3 yet. But Little Nightmares 3 is an amazing game. I don't think it quite reaches the heights of Little Nightmares 2, but it comes pretty dang close, and I think Supermassive did a really good job with that game. And I think Little Nightmares 3 overall is a really, really good game. I hope maybe they do, some DLC. I hope they continue on with this world and we get a Little Nightmares 4. I'm excited to see what Tarsier is doing with Reanimal. But Little Nightmares 3 is still a really good Little Nightmares experience, a really good game within that world. And I'm excited to continue playing it and finish it because I love anything within that world, because Little Nightmares is one of my favorite horror series of all time, if not my favorite horror series of all time. Keeper is a really cool game from Double Fine. It has that Burton-esque vibe to it. It kind of is reminiscent to things that they did with games like Psychonauts and so on, but it's kind of this little passion project game. It costs like $20 or $30. It's on Game Pass and all these things, but it's such a unique little game with, different ways of doing puzzles and platforming while playing as this like living lighthouse and everything that comes with that. It's one of those games that really are art. You know what I mean? Like when people say, oh, games are art, and other people are like, oh, games are not art. Not games are art. It just depends on the game. You can have an Iron Meat or something that's just like this fun, old school, ode to old kind of run and gun, blasting shit, metal music everywhere. But you can also have these games like Keeper that are meant to be this experience of, maybe racking your brain a little bit and just having this cool and interesting experience throughout that's colorful and vibrant, that's meaningful and powerful, and is like you're experiencing and playing and living in a actual piece of art that you would see in a gallery. Sword of the Sea is another one of those games. Sword of the Sea takes everything that Giant Squid did with Journey, Abzu, and The Pathless and somehow combines it into one game with Sword of the Sea. It has a little bit of everything. It has the focus on movement, exploration, and unique ways to do movement, puzzles, and so much more. And the way that everything feels and looks, it's so powerful, and they always do so much with these mythologies and cultural influences that are very rare to see in a lot of games, and I think they do such a phenomenal job bringing that out. I'm pretty sure Austin Wintory composed Sword of the Sea. He also composed Abzu, The Pathless, and all of Giant Squid's games, and he does such a phenomenal job of making you feel every single aspect of every single thing in the game. He did the same with the previous games. He does such a phenomenal job at that. Definitely one of my favorite composers among video games. South of Midnight is a game that I think not only deserves to be talked about because Compulsion games make these very unique games that once again have this feeling of being like a piece of art, but also because they have these stories that are meaningful and further branching. These very interesting characters, and We Happy Few is such a very interesting game. It may be very flawed and have a lot of its own issues, and I think South of Midnight is a much better game than that. It's probably one of their best games ever. But what South of Midnight really achieves is such a faithful recreation and way to show Southern American culture, heritage, folklore in such a fun and meaningful way. As someone who's from the Appalachian Mountains and someone who grew up in this area, and it's rare to see anything actually take a positive influence from things like that. It's really, really cool to see. It's also an extremely fun game to play with great art and a lot of really cool things that they do with stop motion and just a very interesting art style. There's something else you don't see. The combat is, it's okay. It's not bad. It's fun. Very old school, but the combat is far from being the best thing about the game. The story, just the overall narrative, the music, the art style, the cinematics, the overall experience, what's going on all around you at all times, everything. It's just so freaking good. The whole tapestry being woven in front of your eyes during the entire experience is just a truly mind-boggling must-play experience. I really think so. Desecrators is a indie 6 Degrees of Freedom game reminiscent to games like Volition's Descent. And it's a game that is really cool. You're kind of like a pirate and you're raiding these derelict spaceships and stuff, fighting robots, stealing gold. And it's such a really cool game because, one, in this day and age where we have all these boomer shooters and retro-inspired games, we rarely have any games that are actually inspired by the 6 Degree of Freedom style FPS experiences that were more about like spaceship movement and stuff where you got, and I mean, honestly, it is still a little disorienting. I'm sitting here playing and moving and I'm like, oh, okay, that's really messing with me a little bit, but it feels so good. Like every button press, every missile or bullet that hits something, everything has a perfect impact and effect on everything that you're doing. It's really cool to explore, and it's just a really, really fun, cool throwback style of game that I hope they get to keep making and make sequels and all these things, because I want to see more games like it, because I love that 2D platformers, 3D platformers, boomer shooters, old school FPS games, arena shooters, and all these things just keep coming back, and roguelikes and whatever. I'm glad that every genre at this point is booming and doing amazing things constantly. That's what I love to see. Cool shit released all the time in video games, and that's what it's about. That is 10 honorable mentions for you all to go out and play. For you to all go check out and hopefully enjoy. Now on to the meat and potatoes of this entire video, and that is the top 5 video games of the year for the Forge Awards, Deadforge's picks for the best games this year. Let's get into it. So let's start off with number 5, and that game is Marvel Cosmic Invasion. Oh my god. This is the best beat-em-up game that I have played since Shredder's Revenge, ironically by the exact same developers. Not only is the fact that you play 2 characters and have this Marvel vs. Capcom style tag team action at the same time, but also an adequate challenge, so many fun unlockable characters and different ways that the whole game plays. For some characters, when you do your dodge/block ability, some roll, some actually block, some like phase through, some do all kinds of different things. And some people can fly, some can swing webs across the screen, some can just jump. It's so cool. And then there's like every character has a unique secondary ability, main ability, combos, unlockable combos. Every character can level up to level 10, unlocking new abilities. It's so cool. And then the whole game itself takes from the comic books heavily, from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s animated shows. I mean, it's so cool. And the intro cinematic is amazing. Boss fights are so cool. The levels are so cool. They do so much with the beat 'em up genre. And I know a lot of people are like, Absalom or whatever is the beat 'em up of the year or a game of the year contender. And I get that. I haven't played the game, but the fact that it's a roguelike instantly makes me not really care about it, because I don't want my beat 'em up to be a roguelike. I want my beat 'em up to be a typical beat 'em up game that has a point A to B progression, that has all these levels and replayability and character unlocks, arcade unlocks, and all these things. It even has this whole little section that's kind of like the crypt in Mortal Kombat, where you get these little gems that you put in and you unlock different skins, excerpts for details on characters and bosses and so on. You fight certain bosses and unlock them as playable characters. I mean, there's such a crazy amount of content, replayability, and fun things to do in this game, and it's only like a $30 game. It's crazy. And I'm super excited because I can guarantee that they're going to do DLCs just like they did with Shredder's Revenge, which means even more cool shit. Marvel Cosmic Invasion is an awesome game that really, really deserves to be in this top 5 list. Like, it's one of the best games released this year by far. And it's cool to have something so different on this list. I think overall, this list itself is a fairly different list. So let's go on to number 4. Number 4 is another one that you guys are probably not going to expect, probably didn't see coming, and that is Revenge of the Savage Planet. And if you've seen my channel, you know that I made a video on Journey to the Savage Planet and Revenge of the Savage Planet around the time that Revenge dropped. I've talked with Alex Hutchinson on the Quad Damage podcast, and I almost talked with him on the Game Bounty board, but some issues happened with recording. I've been a huge fan and supporter of Typhoon Studios and what they have now become in Raccoon Logic. And I think that Revenge of the Savage Planet, it's third person, there's so many more animations and cool things going on, but it's still that like Metroid Prime style 3D platformer game that is very much a Metroidvania with so much replayability, so much to 100%, so much to do. There's way more locations, levels, variety, enemies, bosses, and just story progression in general on this one. There's this thing where you get to build your space trailer park, which is very reminiscent to the settlement building stuff that they had in some of the Assassin's Creed games. The pulling your blaster out like your Han Solo, split screen co-op. They even added some form of a PvP mode, which looks really fun. I haven't played that. It's like Bingo Brawl or something like that. And I was like, that's freaking cool. They added like an arcade mode, a sandbox mode, and a bunch of other ways you can replay the game. They added in outfits where you got like an almost Reptar type character from Rugrats. You can play as Yuka from Yooka-Laylee, which was freaking cool. They just did another crossover with like 2 Point Museum or something. There was tons of like free updates. There's so much to do in the game. The cutscenes are cool. The cinematics are cool. All the stuff they did with just the spoofy 90s goofiness that they did with the first game and with this game. The continuation of everything. The throwbacks to the first. And there's just so much to love there. It's one of those games that like is heavily overlooked, heavily underrated. Definitely should have got some kind of something, been nominated for something at the Game Awards. It's such a cool game, and the music is good, the visuals are good, the art style and the graphics are good. It's just one of those games that it deserved so much more. And I hope Typhoon Logic takes this and they make another one. I hope they get another Savage Planet or they make a new kind of game. I just want to see more Savage Planet. I want to see more of this universe. I want to see more of this studio. I want Alex and co to keep doing amazing things and keep bringing their vision to life. And I hope they keep making enough money to keep going. I hope they keep riding this Savage Planet train because, man, is Savage Planet freaking awesome. And it's still up there as my favorite Metroidvania series of all time. And nothing will ever surpass it. It is so freaking cool. Ah, man. And I'm so happy I have a physical copy of both games. So freaking cool. And not to mention, to put the cherry on top, I actually forgot to mention this, but both Marvel Cosmic Invasion and Revenge of the Savage Planet, I got to play with my son, and that makes it even better. That makes it 10 times more fun for me. And he loves them too, so that's what really matters. These are phenomenal games. Revenge of the Savage Planet is freaking awesome. You definitely need to go play it. And did I mention, it's also a fairly cheap game. It's only like $30 or something. It's crazy. Now on to number 3. Number 3 is The Outer Worlds 2. Yeah, see, now we're getting the heavy hitters. The Outer Worlds 2. It is everything that The Outer Worlds wanted to be without any of the constraints. It wasn't constrained by budget or time, anything, or team size. This time around, they had a bigger team, more cooks in the kitchen, more money, more time, and more freedom to do as much as they wanted. They had the original creators as directors, writers, still closely involved. The Outer Worlds 2 takes everything that the original game did and expands on it. It's closer to a New Vegas style game. It's bigger. It's better. There's so many great things about the Outer Worlds 2. It's such a phenomenal RPG with so much choice, so much consequence, so many ways that you can create and craft, just mold your character in the way that perks, quirks, and every single aspect of character building works, coexists with one another, and how they all just kind of come together. And it just, you can make so many crazy builds and so many crazy combinations of things to just create a unique for you experience. Everyone's experience is going to be different, yet somewhat similar. Everything's so much fun to explore. Yeah, sure, it has some issues here and there with enough population, but it wasn't quite as bad as Avowed. There's still a lot more going on. There's still a lot more people. There's things they can fix in the future, and I think it has a lot to do with the engine and how they're working on this stuff. And I'm excited to see what else happens in the Outer Worlds. I'm excited to see what happens with Outer Worlds 2 DLC because they did such a phenomenal job with the expansions on the first game. So I'm really excited to see that. And I think the combat was vastly improved here. The leveling system, the progression, the just RPG elements in general, the amount of ways that things can play out, the amount of quests, just the amount of things you can do and have these like actual direct consequences of the skills that you choose and the traits that you choose and the way that you choose to play the game are so much more common, and dialogue has so many more choices, so much more that actually pays attention to what you do and say and how you act and what you allocate skill-wise. So that's just amazing. The Outer Worlds 2 is a stupidly impressive RPG, a freaking time investment, and a freaking awesome game. It's definitely going to be up there as one of my favorite RPGs of all time. No doubt about that. I was a huge fan of the Outer Worlds. I'm a huge fan of Fallout New Vegas, and I love Obsidian, and I think the Outer Worlds 2 is one of the best games they've made in quite some time. I think the Outer Worlds 2 takes itself a bit more seriously, but still has just enough of that irreverent, goofy, Futurama-like humor that it makes it perfect. I really loved the Outer Worlds 2, and it was really tough to say what my game of the year was going to be because these top three were very, very close to number one. But there was one game that won out. And if you know me really, really well, you might actually already know what number one is. So on to number two. Number two is Dying Light the Beast. Dying Light the Beast for a bit was actually my game of the year. It actually took the place of my prior game of the year, which then regained game of the year. Dying Light the Beast takes everything that made Dying Light 1 great with all of the improvements of Dying Light 2 and none of the fluff. It takes it back to basics, but also expands on it a bit. It finds this middle ground between Dying Light 1, Dying Light 2 in its combat, movement, exploration, and its open world. It really reminded me a lot of Dead Island when you're driving around and the only thing you can drive is a truck. But then you also have to get gas like you're playing The Following. It had a somewhat more grounded, clunky feel of like the original Dying Light, but made sense that you were enhanced and more powerful and you also were more experienced. And it had a bit of the kinetic energy that Dying Light 2 had, but not really any of the floatiness. Everything really flowed very, 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 very well. The horror of nighttime was back. There was just such a focus on this arcade-like boss fight feel. This, I'm going after all these bosses so I can get powerful enough to go after the main boss. And the main boss, the bad guy, the big bad, just seemed like this basic James Bond villain, Far Cry villain sort of character. But then he kind of just twisted every idea that you had about him all the way around. Every single time. And every single time you're like, oh yeah, he's going to do that. He does the complete opposite. They took a character and made him seem basic at a distance, but once you actually get in there and you get to know that character, he's actually completely different. And he actually reminded me of Albert Wesker, how he's like absolutely 100% ready to kick your ass at any moment. And it's really cool to see that happen, and he really does go after you. It's kind of crazy. I think the game did a really good job at making sure that the world was affected by both your choices, which are very limited, and also just things that happen in both the main and side missions. And they actually have some kind of effect on the world, and it's actually shown through different things, through small things and big things. Expanding on the mythos of everything that's going around with the infection and the volatiles and what created all this stuff, where it came from, what it could be caused by, yada, 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 and infected people. And really expanded on a lot of things. The combat, oh my goodness, it came so close to that Dead Island 2 kind of gore and visceral feel. I think that it had the impact of the first Dying Light, and it really felt good to like hit a zombie and like cave in their head or break their jaw off or just obliterate them. I mean, the impact and the effect that your weapons had on the enemies was crazy. It felt so freaking good, so visceral and natural, and it just felt good. Exploration felt good. Finding safe zones and going to dark zones and finding loot and all these things, it all felt really, really good. And I think overall, Dying Light the Beast is a feel-good game. It's a very depressing feel-good game, but it is a very, very good experience all the way around. If you're a fan of Dying Light or Dead Island, it's a must play. And if you're not, it's probably still up there as like one of the best zombie games to ever be created since Dying Light. So I highly recommend it. And this is number 2. This is the one that was so close. Are you ready for number 1? Well, here is number 1. Deadforge's Game of the Year. This is what you're all here for. Game of the Year. Number 1 is Atomfall. Rebellion's Atomfall. The game that I was excited for. It was like the first game that I was looking forward to playing and releasing this year. It's the game that I chose to drop Cyberpunk and drop Oblivion Remastered to play. And I sat and played nothing but Atomfall for like 3 months. I put over 20 hours in my first playthrough. I got every ending of the game. I played through the DLCs and got every single ending to the DLCs. What a freaking experience. And I know that they've added fast travel, and at least it's dedicated to its own location, so it's not as big of a deal. But having to explore on your own, and the only way that you get these quests are by these leads and this whole lead system, which is basically you're just kind of getting bits and bobs of information and hints at where to go. Sometimes things are marked on your map and sometimes they're not. You can choose how much HUD you want, how much realism you want in certain things. And I went for ultimate realism. I bumped the difficulty as high as it would go. I played so strategically, slowly, had so much fun. The resource management and the almost survival horror-like lack of resources, having to be strategic with your ammo. It felt like it's actually the only game since Prey 2017 that made me feel like that. A game that I was just kind of engrossed in what was going on. I was engrossed in what could happen, how it would end, and how it played. A game that you had to really meet on its own terms. A game that you had to figure out how it worked. It's a game that allowed you to kill everyone, have multiple endings, have so many different choices that had consequences on not just the narrative as a whole, but also the characters and the locations you went to and who you were fighting and how you were fighting them. So much lore and backstory. It asks so many questions and gives you so many answers and still leaves you by the end with every single possible ending still wondering, and that's something that I love. It's a game full of so much of like, what is going on? I'm so intrigued. I want more of this. So many personal, individual stories wrapped up in this whole narrative that's so branching, and the fact that it's just this lead system, this system that gives you bits and bobs of information that you kind of piece together and you kind of figure out this narrative and where to go and what to do, and the way you're forced to explore by foot and kind of take your time and do all this stuff and kind of make notes. And it's a game where you like want to put down a notepad and be like, okay, this is this and this is that and I did this and blah 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 and I need to go here or whatever, or make a note on your map. I wish it had a more diegetic map. That would have been cool, kind of like Metro Exodus or something. But it's also a game that I think felt a lot like that as well. And it had these kind of like smallish to medium-sized open worlds that were interconnected by loading screens. There was like shortcuts to different ones and so on. I mean, I've played that game so much that I know it like the back of my hand. I've technically had like 4 or 5 different playthroughs, and I'm probably going to start another one soon. Atomfall just has a vibe and a feel that just really stuck with me. It's a game that will stick with me for a very, very, very long time, and a game that is easily in my top 10 games of all time list. It's up there with games like Prey and Red Dead and so on. Atomfall is a unique game, and I think a lot of people will be turned off from it because it doesn't do a lot of hand-holding, because it doesn't point you in the right direction, because there is no direction, there is no hand to hold. The entire thing's a mystery that you're unraveling, and you can still beat it multiple times and have no idea what happened. And even when you get an answer and you're kind of like, I think I know what happened, you don't even know what happened. You have no idea what happened. You're not even close. And I think that's amazing. I love a game that never actually truly gives me an answer. I love a game that allows me to just explore at my own pace. It allows me to figure everything out and unravel everything. It allows me to miss things. It allows me to completely block myself off of quest lines and characters. It completely allows me to miss context and choose to be the bad guy or choose to be the good guy, or really, all in all, to be very morally gray. It allows you to be as helpful as you want or be as self-centered as you want. There's so much there, and what they have with Atomfall could be really pushed forward and brought into something so much deeper and so much crazier with a sequel, which I think is going to happen because Atomfall is actually one of Rebellion's most successful games in the entirety of their company. I think that there's a high chance that we get more Atomfall, and there's a high chance that we get Rebellion continuing to iterate and see what kind of crazy stuff they can do. I like this, just them stepping out of their comfort zone and making something truly special and unique and different. Rebellion stepping out of the shadow of Sniper Elite, pushing back into the FPS scene like they used to do with AVP and Judge Dredd, and making something really different and weird, something very experimental, something very risky, something outside the norm, and something that not a lot of people are going to play. You know, it's the same thing with Wolfeye Studios making Weird West and their next game. These games are risky. It's risky to make immersive sims or RPGs with a lot of choice and consequence. It's risky to make games of that ilk in general. For Rebellion to take such a risk and make such truly amazing game, an amazing experience like this, really just blew me out of the water. I did not expect to fall in love with a game so early in the year. I did not expect to fall in love with the world, the characters, the story, the endings, and just everything. The Lovecraftian inspirations, the wind whistling, the music, the ambience, the atmosphere, everything is just so perfect in my opinion. The little bit of flaws that this game had with crashes and audio bugs in the early stages, I don't even care. I get it. I get why a lot of people will be turned off from this game, because if it's a game that not really, it's not for you, then why would you play it? But definitely try it, right? A lot of people got turned off with Prey because they weren't sure what it was going to be. And I think for the people who really wanted something like Prey, they eventually found it. And they eventually blew it up to being considered one of the best immersive sims ever made, even though when it first launched, it wasn't as warmly received, even if it did okay. Atomfall is one of those games. It's much like Prey. It's sitting at a lot of 7s, 8s out of 10. There's an occasional 6 or something, and some, 9s. But I think with time, it's one of those games that'll build a cult following, and it'll ultimately inspire a lot of people. I think it'll really build a huge fan base, and it'll even introduce a lot of people to cooler RPG elements, immersive sim-like games, and a lot of cool ways that games can be created and crafted and put together that should influence a lot of people for time to come. And I hope that a lot more people play Atomfall. I hope that after watching this video, you go play Atomfall. And I hope that people fall in love with Atomfall in the same way I did. Because Atomfall connected to me in a way that few games have. It connected to me in a way that Prey did, Fallout New Vegas did, Metro Exodus did. And I think it's just a truly special experience that deserves to be experienced, deserves more love, and it really deserves you to play it. That's my top 5 games of the year. Atomfall is my game of the year. As always, my list and the games that I talk about are so far different than everybody else. I played a lot more indies and AA stuff this year than I did AAA, and the AAA that I did play might as well be AA. I hope you guys enjoyed this year's annual Forge Awards. I hope that you were surprised by my top 5 picks. I hope that you were surprised by my honorable mentions. I hope that you maybe even found some games today that you didn't even know existed. And if you really enjoyed the Forge Awards, I hope you go back and check out my catalog of videos. I hope that you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell to keep up with the videos that I create and get notified when something new drops. I hope that you keep your eyes on the channel and the things that I post. Maybe you want to hop by and check out Patreon and join the Cult of the Forge and become a cultist yourself. And you can join some of my longtime supporters, Midnight Medium, Osh, and Melancholy Geek, as well as other free members. It's okay to join as a free member because most of my posts will be available to you. As a paid member, you can give me $1 and it goes towards trying to help get new equipment and make videos and do all these things, as well as you get to see some behind the scenes stuff. Maybe you get asked questions or get to help with the development of videos or help me figure out problems that I'm having. So with that all said, as always, the Forge is calling and I must answer. So I'll see you all when the next video has been forged. Good night and good luck. and Happy New Year.